Focus. Ideate. Innovate. Enable.
Well, while the government is in the process of re-engineering its business model and the manner in which it interacts with the public at large, could I come to you, Dilip? We can identify maybe areas of growth where jobs are being created, because ultimately it's all about making the workforce employable. So which are the sectors, in your experience that you've witnessed, are doing well and for which all of us can get together and create employable workforce?
The first thing to understand is that the sector which is doing well today need not be doing well tomorrow.
Right.
Or the sector that is doing badly today, e.g. automotive, will not do well tomorrow. So who decides this? In the past, it was the government system that decided this. Can we leave it to the industry and to the sector councils and them to give that signaling to us and say, okay, this is what we're looking at next year, the year after, right? The second is that if you look at the short term part, and we look at the last 1 year under the STAR program where we did 1 million, 1.2 million people were recruited, the majority of the recruitments that the kids chose were IT, ITES, banking, retail, interestingly automotive, but drivers and mechanics, healthcare. If you look at the top 5, and then telecom, sorry, not healthcare, but telecom. So all these 5 sectors got enrollments of upwards of 100,000 people.
These have been the sunrise sectors.
1 lakh, yeah, and people, and especially in the IT sector skill council focusing on jobs, it was a very interesting.
Well, creating jobs and then providing a career path is one aspect of the issue, and we have touched upon the other aspect briefly, which was about retaining this workforce. Sanjay, what is the key reason, I'm sure you've done an analysis on this, because of which people actually drop out and we are not able to retain them?
So
besides not having a career path?
There are 2 key reasons. I think the first is that there's an expectation mismatch. What they expected they're going to do and what they're actually doing. So they don't want to do that kind of work. And therefore, which means very early in the process, we should have managed expectations. The second is compensation. Very clearly, their aspirations is to get a much higher compensation relative to what they're getting. But the study throws up these 2 as the key reasons.
Dr. Reddy, do you think the trainers are to be blamed for this? They do not set the expectations right. They do not communicate effectively with the people they are training.
I don't think that's universally true. There may be some inadequacies on the part of trainers. For example, in our model, Island of Skills, when we do, a menu of options is given. The student chooses. Student is explained, trainee is explained. The job upfront, we first type the jobs. Before actually the training takes place, the trainee knows where the job is, how much is the salary, and which trade. Then what we create, our training centers are exactly workplace is replicated, completely workplace, a mini factory. Exactly they know what needs to be done. And then the standards, assessments, when they actually go out, firstly there is informed decision, secondly is experience of training resembles industry. Third is they actually gets a job and start working. That's one way of reducing the retention, and which we have seen out of our experience, it's working very well. The second biggest thing which is not under our control of this is the housing. We should realize that the jobs are not there where the poor people live. Yes. Mr. Matthew's target group is some states and where the jobs are elsewhere. When they actually come over this, where do they live? Even if the salary is 10,000 rupees, 12,000 rupees, how much housing goes into? So affordable workers accommodation industrial clusters will partially address this problem of retention.
Your closing comments, Sanjay, I would start with you. What is the key issue that you think the government must address right away?
I think it's about working more closely with the corporate sector to create that ownership of that skill which is ultimately going to come and work for them.
Santosh, is that going to be a possibility?
I'm sure, I'm hopeful, but my own comment is that we have to re-engineer the way we do business in government. We have to become much more predictable, and people have to be at ease when dealing with government, and we have to achieve that if we have to take both the growth story as well as the skilling story forward.
Well, Dilip, you're in a strategic position. You're also a link between the private sector and the government. What has been your biggest learning while interacting with these 2 stakeholders?
I think the first big learning is that there's a mistrust of the private sector. And if you look at all the way the government schemes are designed and actually operated, it is to ensure that the private sector doesn't walk away with government money. The second thing is we need to get coherence and scale. Unfortunately, what we see happening is that every entity that is there does its own processes. So can we say, I mean, every government department does due diligence, does monitoring, does its own database, does its own, can we move all of this collectively and can we actually make it actually happen? So we can focus on areas of mobilization. The time and money we're spending in that, can we focus on mobilization and post-training support? And the third thing is, as a nation, we want to, it's a new independence battle that we are fighting. A battle of independence from low wages, low productivity, high underemployment, high unemployment, low creation of jobs, and the mantra has to be skilled, be independent.
Well, Dr. Reddy, to be skilled and to be independent, the trainers have a great responsibility upon their shoulders. What is it, one thing that the trainers need to be effective in this entire exercise?
I think we need to take the job creation in those areas where the people are available as a national agenda. Then that's the ultimate solution for the many of these constraints that we talked about. Create the jobs where the people are available, build in public-private partnerships, and re-engineer the government vocational training processes.
Well, thank you, gentlemen. It was a pleasure talking to you. I was in conversation with an independent group of panelists on the issue of skilling India. One thing is clear, that to be able to achieve the target by 2020, as has been envisaged by the government, we are going to have to ensure that we skill people in a manner that they become employable, that there are enough jobs at the same time for these persons to get, and to say the least, but it is equally important, it is going to be an effort which the private sector and the government will have to take forward hand in hand. Thank you for watching.
Focus. Ideate. Innovate. Enable.